Welcome back to Raised by Giants, where we talk all things spirituality. I'm Ryder Lee. In this episode, we have returning guest, philosopher, researcher, educator, Wayne Steiger, speaking about the application of wisdom versus knowledge and much more. But before I introduce him, check out Raised by Giants on Rokfin. It is a completely uncensored platform. Go over there, set up a free account, get all of my regular content I post here on YouTube, and sign up for Rokfin's premium content, which is far less than a YouTube premium account, at only $10 a month. And you'll get all of my premium uncensored content when it gets released, and all of the other creators' premium content as well, like Beyond Classified, Charlie Robinson, Jay Dyer, Zero with Sam Tripoli, Tinfoil Hat, Eddie Bravo, and Rex Bear Leak Project, and much more. Check the link in the description to sign up for the video streaming platform Rokfin. Also, check out C60 Purple Power. It is the most powerful antioxidant on the planet. Helps with energy levels, skin problems, infections, eyesight, brain cognition, EMF radiation, and a lot more. It's a free radical sponge that gives your body the ability to heal itself. And if you use promo code GIANTS10 from the link in the description, you'll get 10% off your entire purchase. I highly recommend it. I've been using it for over a year with my own money, and I wouldn't recommend something that doesn't work. Wayne Steiger, welcome back to the show. It's good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing exceptional, and thank you, Ryder. It is always fun. I love it here. Always a good time. And hey, lots going on. I mean, there's one thing about it. You certainly can't be bored right now. So how are you, my friend? How's winter treating you?
Doing great, Wayne. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate you. And I was actually thinking about you the other day and I was like, hey, who's the best person I can talk to about with these theories and these ideas that I'm coming up with? And you immediately came to my mind, the ultimate philosopher. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion. If you
Honored,
guys
my
aren't
friend.
if you guys aren't subbed to Wayne's channel, the link is in the description. He does a live almost every single day. It's incredible. So where I wanted to start this conversation out with, and it's going to evolve, and it's going to get into some of the things that we were talking about before the show here, is it really seems like we were really left to our own devices here, Wayne. Like something or some kind of intelligences or what people would call gods just kind of set this whole thing in motion, right? And I'm referring to humanity here, and just kind of dipped out, right? And said, see you guys later, figure it out on your own, you know? And this is kind of what we've created, this reality in this society that we're currently in. Now, I don't know when this happened, right? Because history has been so screwed up and messed with that we can't really even trust it. But if you go back to the Vedas, it talks about this group coming and going, right? Manipulating humanity for a bit. Some kind of disaster happens, they leave, and then they come back later on. Now, and then they just didn't come back one time, right? I mean, that's what it kind of seems like. And even through the Sumerian text, we always seem to have some kind of oversight going on by a group of beings. But it feels like at this moment in the past 2,000 to 4,000 years of our existence here in this reality, they have just kind of left us. They're just kind of not here anymore. Right? What do you think of that thought and that idea?
Wow, this is such synchronicity. All last week, I was discussing over on my channel. All right, so we talk about Homo sapiens. We know from the anthropological record that Homo genus has been around, they estimate, for about 3 million years. Homo habilis as it emerged out on what they're saying was the southeastern plains of Africa, that it was bipedal and most likely emerged from the simian branch of monkeys. There's further theory that what happened to the jump, and that's what they call it, was that there was a tribe, a troop of simians that actually ate the brains of a conquered foe. And it's said that when they consumed the brain of their own kind, something happened genetically. Whatever that is true or not doesn't really matter, is that we know that we can date the early skeletons that they found in the caves in Southeast Africa to about 3 million years ago. They say Homo sapien emerged in probably most likely the Indus Valley, but eventually they can track it back to to Africa. But the dating on Homo sapiens is approximately 1 million plus years, which would then indicate that we were very slow to develop, very slow, or there has been catastrophisms of innumerable amount of times that has wiped our species out, and we've always emerged from the ashes. Okay, I can accept that, because it's certainly better than using magic saying, here, man be there. Man was totally sentient, fully cognitive. I don't buy that. But here's the thing that I think, Ryder, to adding to you. So if the universe is 14 billion light years old, right? Something like that. And if you look at humanity here on Earth, let's say we are 3 million years we date that back, because the Genome Project, the Human Genome Project, showed we are about 94% simian. I mean, our DNA, and people have creationists argue with me all the time. They say, "Oh, no, you're defiling God and what have you." I said, then explain to me where the Rh factor comes in. The rhesus hemoglobin, it's a part of our blood. It's part of our DNA. You can't say that it came in afterwards. It was there to begin with. So was God there? Was the devil there? Lucifer, Jesus, Muhammad? Apparently not, because there's no records of any of that, which tells me that we are an afterthought or an experiment. We have either been left on our own because the Homo sapien genus of man is flawed, that we are a murderous species, that we are somehow broken genetically, and there really isn't much hope for us.
Which then also begs the question, were we always the same type of human that we are today, right? Do we honestly believe that the same version of humans we are today were the same version of humans that built the pyramids, right? The same version that built these megalithic sites in great detail, that they were utterly perfect in every way, the craftsmanship, everything aligned perfectly. If you think that we're the same humans who did all of that and that has existed here since the beginning of time, then why can't we do that today? Why can't we duplicate any of these megalithic structures? Why can't we assemble them in a way that is almost the exact same way that they did it back then? Right?
Well, your statement, and if we look at the evidence, I mean, that's what scientists do, right? You propose, you observe, and you look at the results. By that statement, it says that we are a regressed species. We are not progressing. We're actually going backwards. And that we are, I guess, depending on your point of view, the imminent future of our species is collapse. I mean, look what's facing us right now today as you and I speak. We know that the financial system is under heavily duress. I'll put it that way. Bailouts are coming. We have a potential World War III, potentially nuclear. Then, on top of that, we're discovering more and more about our past that people are going, it's opposite of the narrative. In the beginning was God, you know, and God spoke to man, breathed into him, and he became a living soul. Really? Okay. Uh, I'm left with a whole lot of questions there. But for me, I posed this to my audience last week, Ryder. So, in my philosophy, because I'm much like William Shatner, the the eventuality of my departure is no longer assumed. You get a certain point in the age of life that that the inevitability of the transitioning is going to take place. Now, how it takes place, that's yet to be played out. But I was thinking to myself, okay, he thinks a lot about the afterlife. He says, as we go through life, you do get wiser. Unfortunately, you die. and no one gets that, you take it with you. But here's my thing. So humans are a relatively new thing on the big creation thing, the big universe. Do you think that if they didn't plan out our lives on this plane, do you think they really planned our lives out on the next plane? I don't think so. I don't think that when they put us here, the plan B was in the manual, if plan A screws up, well, at least they got plan B, eternity. I don't think that the creationists or the creators or whoever they were said, all right, well, we'll have a plan B for them anyway. But we're convinced that there's an afterlife.
And then that's why we want to do everything right and do everything good for some kind of reward, which just then gets into all kinds of ridiculousness about
Well, that's a
religion.
subservient mentality. There's no free will in that. When I divorced my religion, Ryder, I told the God, because I don't know who the God really is. They say in the New Testament that the New Testament God is the same as the Old Testament God, but I don't know who the Father is. You do the research. There is no, in Hebraic beliefs, there is no Father. So I don't know who the Father is, but anyway, they tell us that, there's a purpose for our living here. But only if you agree to do it their way. If you don't, you're going to get the left foot of fellowship, They kick us out into the astrals and say, good luck. So,
I want to get back to something that you said just a few minutes ago, which was about wisdom, right?
yes.
But does age create wisdom, or does experience create wisdom?
Well, I guess it would depend on if experience is related to age. If as you go through life, you have many experiences, which wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the age. But for myself, I don't know, Ryder. I have a lot of time to reflect these days, and as I dig deeper in within it, I have come to discover that really it's about me. Because in the end, it's only going to be me. And so I'm left with that because that's the only thing I can honestly say that I know to be truth is me. The rest of this, I'm not so sure of. You look at it. We live in a reality where our species are confused about everything. I wish it was just one thing, but it's like we can't seem to get it right. So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Well, it seems to be, if you were to age rapidly, let's say that you were only here for 4 to 5 years, but you were a full grown adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have any wisdom because you didn't have any experiences of life. You would just be basically a man child, right? You would be a baby in your consciousness and in your soul, but physically aged. So you would be like an aged baby, and you would still be whining and crying and probably yelling and screaming for things that you want, instead of being able to communicate to the people that are taking care of you on like your needs and your wants. Right. So I don't know. I'm not too sure if age is a requirement for wisdom or not, because I mean you can look at our world and our surroundings, people in our world. I mean, there's a lot of older people that aren't too smart. I mean, you can just look at the political spectrum and these people that are in office, right? They're all dinosaurs basically, and they're not too smart, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that, but that's a prime example. I mean, our leaders don't seem like they're wise at all, but yet they have age, which then kind of goes back to that whole thing. Then is it wisdom or is it mere knowledge?
Mm.
I can acquire a knowledge, but it's going to take wisdom to know how to use that.
Is wisdom the application of knowledge? Would you say?
Interesting thing is, so my wife and I were talking about this just a couple of nights ago at dinner. It's interesting because in the book of Proverbs, the first 3 Proverbs is all about wisdom. And what's established really quick up front is that wisdom is a woman. Wisdom is, you could say, almost the divine feminine. And she says, I holler at the streets for the foolish young men that pass by. Woe unto you who pass into the house of the harlot, for your soul shall be waged against you this day. I, wisdom, holler out, but yet no one listens.
Mm.
I mean, that's a proverb that goes thousands, millennials ago. But yeah, you could almost say that wisdom is a spirit. I know that sounds odd, but it would be one of the gifts of the spirit of wisdom. And in fact, that is referenced many times in many of the canonized scripture and even in the Quran.
But could you have knowledge without wisdom,
I believe,
or vice versa? Could you have wisdom without knowledge?
I
Would that
think
be
that,
would that be intuitive, right? Would if
mhm.
you had wisdom without knowledge, would that be like an intuitive basis? That gut feeling that we get sometimes, that we don't really have any knowledge of the situation. We just get a feeling in our gut where we're like, okay, well, I need to do this, I need to do that, not really knowing anything about the situation.
It's an interesting point of view. I mean, I can relate to that. There have been times, like in my diet, and I'll start eating something and come to find out later reading something that this was exactly what my body needed in order to keep it balanced. So was that wisdom? Was that intuition? What was that? It was knowledge, but I didn't know what to make of the knowledge, but it was some sort of intuitive wisdom that said, well, this is what it's going to do without me even knowing it. I mean, then you have the academic level where I can learn wisdom through the experience of the textbook. But at some point in time, the experience will begin to play a major role in that. I mean, it's like I can read about survival, but unless I've been out there in a survival situation, 2 different things, right? Knowledge, wisdom.
Yeah, I think that is the issue here, is that we have a lot of people that have knowledge academically, right? We've had a lot of people that's gone to college and has degrees, but they don't have any application or experience to apply that knowledge, which then I feel would be wisdom, right? So then it becomes this a bunch of people that have just read about things but have no experience behind it, and then that gets muddying of the waters in there too, because then you have a lot of really educated people in the world, but they don't have the wisdom to be able to apply that education to any field that they may be in.
I can use my life as an example. I've been on my own since I was 15. So people of my age were still in 10th grade. But I'm out on the streets in Houston, Texas, in the Montrose area, um, having to survive. I didn't have any supervision. I wasn't being taught anything because they wouldn't let me go to school because I didn't have an address. I was homeless. And I would say this, by the time that my class graduated, because I never did graduate from high school, I had more wisdom than all of them combined. Now, they had knowledge, by the textbook that I didn't know, but I had practical application in knowing how the textbook worked.
Exactly, and I think that that's the difference here between knowledge and wisdom, and I don't think that they are necessarily both needed. You can have one without the other, right? You can have wisdom without knowledge because that would be intuition, and you can have knowledge without wisdom. I mean, we see knowledge without wisdom all the time in our reality.
I learned from the people that I was living around. Most of these were uh, they were going to college. Many of them were University of Houston, Rice University. Um, they were hippies. The social revolution was going on. So my education is what other human adults were teaching me, but not in a classroom setting, but in a practical day-to-day living situation. I learned from those around me. And so it's interesting because that is a certain passing of wisdom, but a certain kind of wisdom.
And I think that we've created this reality and this society based on information and knowledge without the application of wisdom. So therefore, we have a bunch of man children or woman children. I don't want to be sexist here. Man children and woman children, running around and thinking that they can, control things and manipulate things without applying the wisdom from the knowledge that they have accumulated.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I can see I learned something very young living out on the street that there were different levels of reality. There was this overall reality that we would call society, with its laws, customs, etc. Then there was the reality that I knew amongst the people in the community that I lived in. We lived in a different reality where, for instance, marijuana, psychedelics, rock and roll, all of this was counter to the culture, and yet it became a part of our reality within that. But here's the thing. I have a sense that we knew a little bit more, maybe intuitively, what to do with that. Whereas today, society is the benefactor of that evolution of where we said, well, we'll question everything, right? Authority, customs, laws, what have you. And we found that many of those customs were, inherently wrong. And the cause and effect, of hermetics teaches that there is a natural law of cause and effect. And I think that we're so far now down the effect line that it's repeating itself, because an effect will cause and the cause will have more of an effect. Today, we have a great abundance of knowledge. We just don't know what to do with it. As you said, the man child or the woman child, this is where everyone complains that they have a right. Well, in a communal setting, it's not really about the individual's right. It's about the communal right. We've lost that. And we truly are a society. I would say a species. I mean, can we discuss what Lester Holt was talking about?
Yes, let's go there. You were talking to me about this before we started the show. Very interesting.
So here we are. We're seeing the banks collapse, but folks, remember this happened in 2008. George Bush said we were 2 seconds from midnight. I don't know. I don't think we've reached midnight in this event, but who knows? But, with everything else coming out, we have Lester Holt last Thursday night, NBC News. He announces that there is a mothership that has been observed approaching Earth, which they are expected within the next 2 months. They follow that up with the event that happened, I think, 3 years ago with Maua, the whatever the heck it was that came through our solar system. The scientist on this was saying, well, it was very strange how it came in. The direction from the universe where it came in was not normal. How it entered our solar system was not normal. It came in a speed, and then it seemed to slow down and change course. Asteroids, meteorites don't do that. Comets don't do that. And then it sped up. So here we are, all this knowledge. You would think we would be able to, AI may be able to help us out now. Maybe AI will know, but I think AI is more confused than we are because it's a compilation of us. And now we've got supposedly an alien. I don't know what a mothership is. Do you? I don't know what connotation does that mean. Does that mean intelligent life? Does it mean an asteroid like you had mentioned? I mean, yeah. And is it here to come save us? Because that's what we desperately are crying out for today. Someone help us.
Then that gets back to what I was, mentioning earlier. Could this be a return of some kind of intelligences that left us?
What if it's the Anunnaki? What if it's one of their advanced ships? I mean, I don't know what an Anunnaki ship looks like. I mean, but it's replete in the history that somebody was here. They had to leave in something, and I don't think it was the Star Trek, Voyager. I don't think it was, I just don't think they got style like that. I think it's going to be something very practical that you're going to go through interstellar space, but I don't know.
It's just interesting, Wayne, that people seem to not care about things when a certain amount of time has passed in between the event happening and then later on, right? Just like the JFK assassination, right? They release a majority of those documents. A lot of them haven't been released, like the really important ones, that basically states, that some of the intelligence community was involved in the assassination, and no one cares, right? Because there's been so much time that's lapsed in between the event happening and when the documents are released. Just like in 2020, whenever the Pentagon officially released that UFOs are really unidentified objects, no one cared, right? But they've been covering that up since Roswell in 1947, right? But enough time has been in between the event happening and the time that they come out and say, oh, yeah, remember that event that happened 70 years ago? Yeah, that was actually real. You guys were all right. Right. But no one cares. They can come out and say whatever they really want to say. They can come out and say, oh, hey, guys, there's this document here saying that we faked the moon landing in 69. No one would care because we've already been talking about it. And there's already been so many theories that the CIA was involved in the assassination of JFK. There's already been theories that the government has been covering up UFOs and alien intelligences. There's already lots of theories and proofs that the moon landing footage was faked, so it's like they've done that on purpose. They've let enough time between the actual event happening and then them telling the public later on that that they were right this entire time, and then no one cares.
No. There's a theory that they say that this Wi-Fi that we're all now, because everybody has to have Wi-Fi, right? That it's like a Xanax to the general populace. You become a person where you really don't have any true emotions to speak of. It's just, you're existing here, and it's for the next thrill, the next buzz, the next, thing on TikTok. And you can see the regression of our species. I mean, we're really going backwards. My contention is that if we've been here as long as they say we have, not 10,000 years, but maybe 1,000,000 years. Wow, that's kind of frightening to think that length of time has passed and this is where we got. I mean, I've done videos over on my channel saying that they know something manipulated our DNA. We should be living to well over 1,000 years. Some believe 5,000 years. If you look at our IQ, our intelligence factor, and if you say that the first Homo sapien had 100 IQ, and if you added 1 year for every 10 years, we should be somewhere about like 50,000 IQ. But instead, We live less than 100 years, and by the recent test, we have now dropped below the average score of 100. I think we're now about 98. That's frightening.
And is that because of this abandonment of our species? Is this part of humanity an experiment in that way? Right? Was this an experiment for them to leave us to our own devices to see what would happen? How would we build society? Would what would be the social interactions? What would really be going on here? What would we build an empire? Would we what would we make our buildings out of? What would our connection be like between people in different countries? It almost seems like that it's that kind of experiment, not so much an experiment on a so much a genetic level, which I'm sure a genetic level experiment is also a part of this whole thing too, right? But it almost seems like it's just like an observation experiment, that something put this all in motion and was like, hey, we're just going to step out of this and we're just going to observe what happens over thousands and thousands of years and see what point that they can get to on their own, and what direction will they take. Will they take a AI integrated robot type of reality, which is kind of where we're heading, right? But is that an inevitability? Could we change that? Could we grow organically and naturally and get to the things that we would be able to do with robotic enhancements and AI capability? Or what route are we going to take? Are we going to take the shortcut route? Which that would be the shortcut route, is to integrate with some kind of robotic and AI kind of technology to increase the brain capacity and the processing power of the brain. But could we get there without those enhancements? Can we get there organically, and can we get there naturally?
I think that the first thing that comes to mind is that if you look at us as a species in healthcare, all of our pharmaceuticals, which pharmaceuticals dominate everything, their goal is to have every person taking some kind of a pill. But for the last 100+ years prior to that, all of our prescriptions, all of our breakthrough, and all of our drugs have been all petroleum based. It was announced 2 weeks ago that the big pharmaceutical companies are moving now full speed ahead with what they call the next evolutionary step of humanity, and that is moving from a petroleum-based pharmaceutical to genetics. Everything will have mRNA technology into it. Now, if you step back and a philosopher, as I look at this, this is significance. This is what I would define as a moment. This is an event. This is an evolutionary jump, because the children that will be born 20 years from now will be so alien from me. I was born back in the 50s. And now you're talking about altering the genetic code of our species. It seems like we're playing God here, because what we do know going forward, it's never going to be the same. That's significant. And I contend, as above, so below, so below, as above, that if we're seeing a dramatic effect in the genealogy genetics of our species, how does that impact the soul? How does it impact our consciousness, our ability as spirit beings? Because these bodies are going to be transformed into something that I don't know what the future will hold in that. If you can manipulate a gene in genetics, I mean, for instance, if you have, we're talking about, say, for instance, diabetes, you would only come in for one shot once a year. And the change that's happening in your body genetically is taking place. That's a significant jump, Ryder. That to me is one that's not getting enough discussion, but it's happening.
The thing comes in the thought and the theory, which there's no evidence to back. It's just a thought and an idea that I'm putting out there, and that you have talked about as well. Is what if it's not just to create a new human species? What if it's to integrate the human species with a different kind of species? What if the terraforming that's going on the planet isn't for necessarily for us, is to integrate some other intelligences into our world, onto our earth? Because I'm under the perception and the thought and the theory that any life form outside of our planet can't just come here in their physical
Yeah.
body if they're a physical actual entity, right? Our atmosphere is different, our gravity is different, everything is different about the planet than other planets in the solar system or in the galaxy,
Most likely
right?
toxic.
Exactly. So they wouldn't be able to survive here as they are. But if they terraform the planet, if they changed the human species that are currently here into something else, and they change the atmosphere and they change the ionosphere, then that would make it to where these beings could either incarnate here, or that they've had a physical body that's been created for them here in order to take their consciousness and then transfer it into a body here, or that they could legitimately just come here and live like we would be living.
So I know this is going to sound a little strange, but I actually, in my former days as in Christianity, it's amazing how you become indoctrinated in your ears, just, become accustomed to something, because the idea of an alien hybrid being here on earth is nothing new. It's the whole foundation of the Christ story. It is an alien. It was not human. It was integrated into the human DNA, but it makes it a hybrid. Now, the human genome experiment, when they finished out mapping us, now we're into the mitochondrial DNA, they found out there are no humans on this planet. That's the scary thing. There may have been at one time, but today we're all a hybrid, quote unquote. So that begins to get into an idea that, I love it back, when we talked about Mulder, what Chris was bringing out in writing the Disclosure and the X-Files is that these experiments genetically on humans was real. Well, we're doing it right now. So I'm sitting here and going, so why wouldn't, if there's a master plan, if the version of us hasn't worked out, I mean, they've given us thousands and thousands of years, we continue to screw it up. So this is a beautiful planet. I understand planets like Earth are highly treasured in the universe and these other galactic realms, that you find a jewel like Earth, and this is really, it's like, you are a trillionaire. So whoever genetically, and that's what they said the Sumerians said we were. We were nothing more than a genetic experiment. If you read the book of Genesis, Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, it's really saying the same thing. So what if our ticket is up? What if the time in these scientists or these gods, this consciousness said, man, we gave them everything. Well, they got some good qualities. They have some great qualities. Now, if we can graft this into the new resident, the new occupiers coming in, we would have a better place. So yes, Ryder, yes.
I definitely think that there's something to that, in that we've been given this certain amount of time to do the things that, and cultivate reality and cultivate society the way that we wanted to do it. And then now it's time for them to kind of step in and change and manipulate things, because we didn't get to the point that we were supposed to get to. We didn't evolve as fast or consciously or IQ level in the allotted amount of time that we were given. So therefore, they're coming in and being like, "Hey, like, you guys dropped the ball. We're taking over from now on." Right?
Well, I have one I'll interject this into. So get this. So we're all going to, you see, I believe that this is the death realm. I don't think this is the life realm, but never be that as though it may. We're all going to transition to the other side. There is a thought, and it's taught in the mystery schools, that there are those of our species, and not every human has a soul. And we don't come from the same place, but over in this other place, and it's called Ghostland. I'm doing a thing on my channel on this right now, that there are those who have passed over who are building a bridge back over to here. And that and it's being taught in the mystery schools, they're very close to completing it. Now, that opens up a whole new realm of thought, because we're all going to die. So do you believe that you're going to exist in a conscience form on another side? Well, I hope I do. I think that's my belief. I am trusting that my consciousness will make the transition. I see a lot of death. My wife works with it every day. And so that's real. And there is this essence, the force of people that cross over that seem to have the ability to, particularly with loved ones, to communicate. So what if, in fact, I mean, you carry the wisdom over there, right? There are laws that exist over there that apparently are somewhat different than laws here. But if you have some brilliant scientists like, Einstein, if you have Freeman, I mean, brilliant minds, wouldn't they not, if there was the possibility to build a bridge back over to this plane? What impact would that have?
But then brings in the question, if they build a bridge, if they were to do that and
The
come back,
portal bridge, the way I kind of look at it.
but what if there's no bodies that come back to?
Well, you see, that's interesting, because I don't think we need the body. I mean, I've got all the paranormal ghost hunting equipment. I do it as a little hobby. I've never had a full apparition, but with my SLS camera, I've picked up many anomalies that spoke of it, and all the rest of the equipment said that there was a presence there, an energy. So, if we can exist in a spiritual form within these bodies, it would seem like we would have the ability to understand the alchemy of how we could begin to build, if we needed an apparition. And that's maybe all you really need. You don't need a physical body.
But then what would be the point of being here on this in this reality if you're not in a physical body and you're not having a physical existence? I mean, there's a lot of people that are
Well,
here
you've already had
physically.
your physical existence. You've actually advanced. Now, I think there's a purpose for every human, every person, every living thing here. But you've graduated now. You're on the other side. People ask me this, would you want to be young again? No freaking way. I would not want to be a teenager. No way. That was the most miserable time yeah, it was a great time because I was young and invincible in my thought. But, if I really examine it, it was hard. There's nothing easy about it. Yeah, we had the great times, the concerts and everything else, but in hardcore reality, it was a hard life there for a while. But I learned a lot. If I take that over with me, now I don't know if I'd have the desire to come back here, to be honest with you. I don't want to come back, but I can see where others would. Just a thought, because something's moving in here.
Yeah, it's just interesting how people that are already here and already in a physical body here don't want to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like, would they really want to come back and not be in a physical body? I don't know. I guess it would be, dependent upon that person's perception and their experiences of life. If they would want to come back here and exist in this reality, but not be in a physical body and have any kind of physicality.
My wife, because she deals with this, that when people are making the transition, there are those, just like you said, they don't want to come back. They want to go. More than one have said that they're tired. They're just tired. Then there are those others who have either a lot of fear or they really do not want to leave their bodies. They love the physical interaction, and that's who and what they are. They have a difficult time in passing for the most part, whereas the others who are just tired, they don't want to come back. They want to go. One woman said, "I'm tired of this place." That's what she said. "I'm tired of this place. I want to go to the place I came from." She knew.
Then that begs the question: if we are all from someplace else, what makes people think that that place that they're from is any better than here?
Yes. Yes, Ryder. Well, think about it. To your audience, most people don't want to think about the afterlife because our brains are wired to where we think we're immortal. It's just the way we are. No one wants to think about your demise, but yet it's going to happen. So my question to people, the first question I says, "What are you expecting?" I had one guy look at me and says, "What do you mean?" He says, "I'll probably be dead." I said, "So what are you expecting?" He says, "No one asked me that question before." I said, I won't give his name, but I said, "Do you really believe that there's going to be someone there to take care of you? That's what happens here. And if there isn't someone taking care of you when you enter here, you're going to die here very young." So I asked people, I said, "Are you expecting someone to take care of you when you transition over? Yes or no?" And then that's where you get people that go to their religion. They'll say, "Well, the angels will take me to heaven." Well, what's heaven? This whole construct that we get worked up into. And I think so many of us I think we're all going to be surprised. I think it's far different, but it's the point again. It's not that simple. It isn't. I think it's the Wild West over there, my personal feelings. I don't think that there is this heaven or hell. I think that there are trillions of other spirit beings on the other side. And if you don't have your shit together over here, at least having the knowledge of understanding what the spiritual realm is made of, that's why I love the occult. That's why I study the occult. It's that insight to what these two worlds do when they're bridged together, because I believe they can be bridged together. And getting insights to the next life that comes prepares me not only for here, but it allows me to prepare for that eventuality. What do I want to do over there? So that's my philosophy.
Yeah, and would you need like a map, a lantern, a light? Because I'm under the impression that, like you have stated before, and through my own thoughts, as well as that we go into the darkness, right? So
Yes.
if we're in a darkness kind of realm, then do we need a light? Or are we going to emanate that light? Or are we going to, and is that where this thought and the idea of a light body comes from? You need to activate your light body in order to cross over to the other side after you go through the darkness, into the darkness, or a lantern
Well,
or some kind
that
of.
comes into what's consciousness. How, I was out meditating. I love the trees. I have these, Ryder, I have these huge oak trees here, and it comes out into that question that, okay, so what's going to happen here when I make this transition? Is consciousness visible? Because what I'm talking about is thought, right? Unless we really have these forms, you could be an orb, you could be they say, the book I'm reading, studying right now, it's real interesting. We all have auras. That's our energy. And within the aura, we carry everything of our existence, the different realms we've been in, the different lives we've incarnated, not only just here, but apparently other places. And as we go through these emanations of incarnations, that there is a place of what I call the neutral zone, is the neutrality of that. You have a time to basically just get your thoughts together. Now, I know that there are other energies that exist on the other side. I've had enough near-death experiences to know They exist. So I kind of look at it like this. I'm going to enjoy my life here. I'm going to continue to acquire as much experiences as I can. And for me, it will be a feast on the other side.
If consciousness is thought, Wayne, then would it be possible to get stuck in that thought?
Yes,
Right?
I do.
Stuck in that memory, being in some kind of loop of a memory and not knowing that you're in that loop of memory and it keeps replaying and replaying, sort of like a dream state. Right? I think that that is very possible, and it might be the reason that a lot of spiritual people and a lot of spiritual leaders talk about getting rid of your trauma, getting rid of the things
Mhm.
that you've that's been traumatic for you through your life, because when you cross over, it's a possibility that you get stuck in that trauma, in that thought, in that memory.
The ones that I know specifically, the in the material that I'm reading says specifically, are the ones that are murdered, that are die violently and suddenly. They are the ones, particularly those who have had their lives taken by another. And it says that all of us in our souls, we carry warts of different various degrees. These are the attributes that we most often despise, but yet they stay with us. And in the case of a murder, the soul that was the victim of that, they are trapped in that moment because it's so sudden, it's so violent, and it's so brutal, and its mixture is with intense fear. And there are those who have spiritual missions to find these type of souls. They're terrible. They're those who encounter them. These are the demons. These are the monsters. This is what happens to a soul that is brutally attacked like that. But their mission is to help that energy to become the person to get out of that trap so that they can move on. Interestingly enough, it's said that those who have these type of events, that once they get loose, they go to a place that's it's they really grow. They really have a chance to show the beauty. But yeah.
What if that's like the test? Because there are a lot of people that I've heard, and from the books and the articles and stuff that I've read from spiritual individuals that talk about the afterlife, says that there's always some kind of test that you have to face. Uh, uh, some refer to it as the mother dragon, right? And what if that is the test? Maybe it's that memory and that thought that you're stuck in is so realistic that you have to find a way to bust through that thought
Mm.
and that idea on the other side to cross over properly and go someplace else. And that might be the eternity thing that people are talking about with hell, right? It might just
Yeah.
be in our minds that we're going through that, and it's not an actual place that you like a fire burning pit for all eternity. But the eternal part is reliving those memories, whether they be good or whether they be bad. I'm sure people would be reliving good memories as well, which
One would think.
would be even more difficult to get out of and realize that you're stuck in a memory or you're stuck in some kind of trap. I don't know.
You know how I got, because I was a child of abuse, violent abuse. And, as a teenager, um, you know, when Billy Joel wrote the song about the angry young man, I mean, yeah, you know, David Bowie would, and the thing that I learned, and it was really when I came out, when I contracted meningitis and Lyme disease. When I came out of the coma, I had this, I don't remember anything, but I do remember this profound feeling that I needed to find, um, I needed to forgive those people in my life. Specifically, in this case, was my father. And I went down and met him. And I was, when I was paralyzed for a pretty good while, and when I was finally able to get up, but that moment of that forgiveness, and it was the forgiveness of the soul. He broke down crying, and it taught me that it is that ability to forgive and to forget that is, for myself, is what I found is one of the keys that allows us to move forward.
I agree so much. And then I was doing a little research the other day on speaking of serpents and dragons and things of that nature. And I was
Because my
looking.
father was a dragon in my mind. I feared that guy. So I digress.
Absolutely. And then we've been programmed with a lot of fear of serpents and dragons, that they're the bad guy, not only through religion, but there's some people that just have innate fears of like snakes and reptiles and stuff like that, which I think is exactly where the reptilian hypothesis actually comes from. It just comes from our innate fears, and then people have just placated upon those innate fears. But I was looking up the word America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, where does this word come from? I wanted to understand, where the root word of America comes from. And it derives from the word Ameru. And it's an
It's in
Inca
the
word.
plumed serpent.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that serpent is a double-headed serpent that dwells underground. And it's the interesting part of this is that it's believed to be capable of transcending boundaries to and from the spiritual realm of the subterranean world, right? And then also in Native American, the origin of America means the serpent again, and symbolizes the fertilization of earth. And it's said that all of life is written in a Mernu scales, the serpent dragon. And then there's also a group called Meru, and it's originated in Kenya, which in their group, the word Meru means shining light, or the shining ones, or children of the shining light, which that's spelled Meru. So going back and looking through the history and the origin of the word America, America really means lands of the serpent, basically, right?
Martha, we're moving out. There goes the neighborhood. Damn snakes are here, Well, it's true. And, my channel has been predicated on the study of the serpent. I mean, it goes back into every religion. It was, the Cardicus is the dual serpents representing the double helix of healing. I mean, it was the serpent that was actually crucified on the cross, not a man. It was the serpent at the garden. It's just everywhere. And it has always been associated with wisdom and healing. And I'm trying to figure out, well, so when did it become the bad guy? It's like, when did it change teams? I said, I'll tell you what, no. It's this illusion. I mean, I said this yesterday to a couple. I said, you're living under a spell. It's a God spell. It's powerful magic. And, you don't understand when you're under the spell. I mean, Sleeping Beauty didn't realize when she ate the apple that too bad for you. That's what happens when you fall into it. And of course, that goes back to the whole thing. Then who's ruling this thing? Who's the master programmer at this thing? Is that they operate on a level that us humans don't usually think of. And I think it's as simple as actually just that. It's what we would call magic. Spells, potions, illusions. I mean, that's, a lot of what we see is illusion. I mean, it's the test is here where you live at right now. I bet you know the front part of your house, right?
Yeah.
But you can't prove to me that that exists. Neither can you. You can prove it with the memory, but unless you're looking at it directly, there's really no foundation that it actually exists.
Right. It's story. It's a story. It's hyperbole and conjecture. I mean, I can tell you all about the house, all that I want, but there's really no way to. I mean, I guess I could take a picture of it and send it to you, but then again, pictures are,
In this
what
day
is
and
a
age,
picture?
think about it, confusion. I don't know if you've manipulated it because now we don't believe anything. So, I mean, I don't know about you, Ryder. We've been talking for a while here, but this is all indications of a sick species. It's almost like a contagion. We have a soul sickness about us, and many of us recognize it. Many of us desperately are looking for a way that we can break this spell and reverse what's happening. My frustration becomes, I know the magic. I know the names that I can call upon. I have volumes of the spells, but it profits me nothing if it doesn't help my species. And that's why I refuse to invoke a master demon or an archangel or any of these, because it tells me then that I'm giving up on my species, giving up on who I am. And I know we're messed up, but I think we've been a victim more than we've been a victor.
Thanks so much, Wayne. Appreciate your time here this evening. I love the philosophy talk. It's some of my favorite kinds of conversations, philosophy and theories and speculation, because I think that's where we grow the most is, coming from thoughts and this back and forth that we just had. And I hope people enjoyed it. Let people know where they can find you online, my friend.
Wayne Steiger over there on YouTube, on Rumble, same thing, on Spreaker, Odysee as well. And Ryder, I got to tell you, when I see souls such as yours, you are a philosopher. You came into this realm with a natural philosophy that for your time and for your generation will become a voice of hope.
Thanks.
You are the future of that. And I marvel and always proud to see how much you are advancing. So keep at it. The world needs you.
Thanks so much, Wayne. That means a lot coming from you. I've always looked up to you and tried to, model my thoughts and my ideas around the way that
you're kicking ass. You're kicking ass
from what you put out there, because it's really genius, and we need more, people like that are out of the box thinkers that can put pieces of the puzzles together and not be afraid of what other people think and just go in your own.
They won't let me in anymore. It's like, I want to get back in the box. Hell no, we ain't having any of this.
Yeah. Well, I highly implore anybody that is not currently subscribed to Wayne Steiger's YouTube channel to go over there and give him a thumbs up, give him a subscribe, and hit the bell icon as well. And for everyone else, thanks for watching and listening. Much love to everyone in the chat. Please subscribe. Hit the bell icon as well for notifications, and follow all of my other platforms. All the links are in the description. I got Rokfin on there, Odysee, Rumble, and all the different podcast platforms as well. Wayne, thank you so much. Appreciate you a lot, my friend. Love to have you back on at any time. And remember, we're not only in a spiritual war, but a war on humanity. Stay aware, stay alert, keep loving your heart for everyone. Stay safe out there. And if you can see through the illusion, you are the solution. See you guys next time.